Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters. It is now September 23rd of 2021. We are obviously still virtual because of COVID. We have taken care of all of our role assignments. Evaluators have the goals for our speakers tonight. I will be your Zoom coordinator, and at the moment, I'm the only one. Let me go ahead and make Rob our backup, just in case. Okay, Rob Giles will be the backup if I'm unavailable. We have at least two guests that I see. We have Adelita, who's here, and Tracy Warren, who has joined us before. What else do I need to do? A couple of things. If you haven't noticed, on the small panes at the top, there's a ... You are able to pin speakers. One of the things that I'm going to recommend during my speech, just because if you want to see gestures at all, one of the things that you can do while I will be screen sharing, because I'll be screen sharing most of the time, is you can select from the view of participants just the speaker. And when you do that, it gives you the opportunity on most platforms to make me bigger and almost as big as the stuff that I'm sharing. So that'll be an alternative if you want to do that. With that, I think I've covered pretty much all of the major Zoom portions. The one thing I do want to do is I want to show you that our website, there we go, get it out of the way. Our website is DallasSocialToastmasters.com. From DallasSocialToastmasters.com, you'll notice there are three columns. In the third column, we have the members section, which has a link right at the top of it to the current agenda. The current agenda will take you here, which describes our agenda for this evening, and usually will be up to date just really before the meeting. I don't get it up there too much before the meeting, just for last minute changes. But if you want to follow along with the meeting proceedings and who will be doing what this evening, and especially if you need to look up a name to be able to send feedback to someone, you have all of the names right there. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Introduce our Toastmaster for the evening, who will also be doing our Invocation Pledge, and that is Karen Lee. Karen, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Tonight, I do not have a flag, so we will not do our pledge. I've also chosen as a theme for our meeting tonight, food. And food is something that defines cultures and can also bring families together. Cooking food can be a social, or it can be a solitary endeavor. And I've chosen to remember times when our families got together, and I'm half Lebanese, Scots, Irish, and Indian. In times when we got together as a family to eat Lebanese food, we had what's called kibbe, which is made with either lamb or ground beef. And I can remember times when my grandmother, what we called her Siti, would grind the meat itself. It's beef. She most of the time used beef, and she would grind it, cut it, grind it, and she used the old manual grinder. She also mixed it with onions, and she would mix the food with cracked wheat, which was soaked in warm water. And then once she got all that ground and put in a pan, she would cut it in diamond shapes, and then she would pour clarified butter over it, also known as ghee. To make clarified butter, you cook butter on the stove and remove all the impurities from it. And then you put it in the refrigerator. But as you can see, that's quite rich itself. We also had yogurt, which was all made by hand. And also we had what we called Lebanese rice-a-roni, which was vermicelli and rice. And the vermicelli was cooked in butter, and also the rice was cooked with chicken broth. So This was, these are some of the things that we enjoyed as a family when we had huge dinners. You've heard of dolma, so we called them mercy. Well, these are, my grandmother grew the grape leaves, so she stuffed them with the meat and the rice, rolled them up sort of like a burrito, but with the grape leaf, and then cooked them on the stove. So these are some of the things that we enjoyed as a family, as a big family get-togethers for holidays and Christmas. And so with that said, Lee, would you like to go ahead and introduce some of our guests, or would you want to wait till later?
That's okay. We do have 2 guests. Hold on a second.
We got 3.
3 guests. Let me change my. All right. So our 3 guests for tonight, we have Adiltia. Is that how you say your name?
Adelita.
Adelita.
Adelita. Okay. We also have Nicola and Tracy, as well as someone else calling in, but I don't see your name. Who's calling in tonight?
That is actually Adelita. She's called in on a cell phone instead. So
On my cell phone.
she's got both.
She has both. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sorry. I'm not using the computer audio.
Oh, that's fine. All right. So it looks like we got everybody.
Thank you, Lee. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our duty holders for tonight. First, we have our, let's see. I made one change on the agenda, and that is that Dagan Newland is going to be our vote counter. So Dagan, if you want to go ahead and tell us about your duty.
Okay, as vote counter, I'll be in charge of collecting the votes. So to vote, first of all, you'll be asked to vote on different sections of the meeting. Normally, it'd be the best speaker, best evaluator, best table topics, and best of the big 3. But since we only have one speaker and one evaluator tonight, you will only be voting for best table topic and best of the big 3. And the big 3 are going to be the Toastmaster, the table topic master, or the general evaluator. And of course, when called upon to make those votes, you will send those in private chat directly to me, and of course, then I will tally them up and report my at the end of the meeting to let you know who won. But also to let you know if you have any kind of comments for anybody that's speaking at any time, you can always send them a private message to them on what your thoughts on how well he did, or maybe some thoughts on improvements or anything like that as well. Of course, you can always do that for the speaker, but you can do it for anybody that speaks on screen. But of course, the speaker does get a formal evaluation. So, but anyway, that is my role as vote counter. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dagan. Also, our next duty holder is our timer. Mr. Rob Giles, will you explain your duty to us tonight?
Thank you very much, Madam Contest Master. I hope that you can hear me okay. I know that I have a little glitchy video for sure, but as your timer for the evening, I'm here to help you to stay or learn to stay within a specific time frame during each of your speeches, whether it's a prepared speech, table topics, or an evaluation. And for our prepared speaker this evening, his time frame is 6 to 8 minutes. So when he reaches the 6-minute mark, I'm going to show my background. It's going to change and it's going to become green. When he reaches 7 minutes, he's going to see the yellow card. When he reaches 8 minutes, he will get the red card, at which point he has 30 seconds to wrap up. He needs to stay within 6.5 minutes to 8.5 minutes. I'm sorry, 5.5 minutes to 8.5 minutes in order to qualify. As far as our table topics are concerned, our table topics are going to be 1 to 2 minutes. And you have to reach 1 minute if you're a table topic contestant in order to qualify. When you do reach 1 minute, you're going to see the green background. When you reach 1 minute and 30 seconds, you're going to get the yellow background. And then when you reach 2 minutes, you'll get the red background, at which point you will know that you have 30 seconds to wrap up. So pay attention. And again, keep me pinned. And I'll mention that again. The last timing part that I'm going to be taking care of is going to be our evaluator for the evening. And our evaluators have 2 to 3 minutes for their evaluations. They can qualify at 1 minute and 30 seconds, but I will show the green card for them at 2 minutes. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I will show the yellow card. At 3 minutes, I will show the red card, and I say card background. And when you see the red card, if you're an evaluator, you have 30 seconds to wrap up. If you go over that 30 seconds at that point, then you will disqualify. I will give reports regarding those times throughout the meeting when called upon by our big three. Back to you, Madam Contest Master, or Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Our next duty holder is our counter, and that is Mr. Tom Turkey.
Thanks very much, Karen. So my duty as the counter is to listen carefully for verbal distractions or crutch words such as or but these filler words and sounds. So I'll keep track of repeated words like the, and I, or any long pauses if it gets to the point where they're distracting. So when I hear these, I'll normally in an in-person meeting, we would use a horn or a clicker to notify the speaker. Since we're virtual, I won't be doing that, but I will keep track of these. And when called upon at the end of the meeting, I'll give a report on how each speaker did. Back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Our next duty holder is our posture monitor, Justin Faust.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. So as the posture monitor, I will be watching for any good use of body language, any expressive use, any highlights of exceptional use, I will be pointing them out. Any distracting use or repetitive use during your speech, I would also point that out as well, that you might not be aware of. So that's what I will be doing as the posture monitor. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Justin. And our next duty holder is our grammarian, John Vessels. Please tell us about your duty, John.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, I am the grammarian tonight, and the job of the grammarian is listen to all the speaking roles and look for good and bad uses of the English language and make note of those and present those in a report at the end of the night. Also, my second duty as grammarian is to introduce the word of the day. Now, the word of the day needs to be used as often as possible, but it needs to be used during table topics for you to qualify for an award. And the word for tonight is chastise. Okay, let me turn that off. Sorry. Chastise. It means to censure severely. I chastised him for using foul language. So during table topics, you will need to use chastise, and any other time during the meeting that you might be able to slip that in, do it. Thank you. Back to you, Karen.
Thank you, John. Hopefully the duty holders will not chastise me too severely during the meeting. And I also, this past Saturday, went to Richardson Bike Mart because they were having their grand opening and of their new Preston Hollow store, which is on 5,900 something block of East Lovers Lane. And I needed a lot of work done on my bicycle. So I turned it in to have it serviced. And while I was there, they were having hamburgers. They were giving away free hamburgers. So you come and spend a bunch of money and then you get a free hamburger, free Cokes, free beer, and then free water. And then also after they cooked out hamburgers on the parking lot. Also for dessert, they were giving away ice cream sandwiches from Sweet Firefly. And Sweet Firefly is in Richardson, Texas. And they make their own ice cream. So that I got an Oreo cookie ice cream sandwich. So this was something else, I can tell you. So anytime you're in Richardson, if you want to go to Sweet Firefly and get some of their ice cream sandwiches, Oreo cookie, you ought to try them. So they are pretty good. I will tell you from firsthand experience. So tonight we have our speaker in Mark Schroeder, and his evaluator is Lee King. So Lee, will you tell us about Mark's speech and what his objectives are?
Yes. Yes. Mark Schroeder has two main purposes for his speech for tonight. The first purpose of this project is for the member to introduce or review basic presentation software strategies for creating and using slides to support or enhance a speech. The second purpose of the speech is for the member to demonstrate his or her understanding of how to use presentation software, including the creation of slides and incorporating the technology into a speech. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. Mark Schroeder, the corpse of our childhood, Mark Schroeder.
Thank you, Karen. Give me just a second to get the slides up where I need them. Yeah, because interestingly enough, I have to start the Zoom before I get the slides up, or I can't get back to Zoom. Okay, so share screen there. And slideshow. Please confirm that you're seeing the slides.
Got
Excellent.
it.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. No, it's not one of my favorite holidays. It is my favorite holiday. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But I call this the corpse of our childhood because nothing says Halloween like setting up a store in the corpse of our childhood. Now, for anybody who doesn't know Spirit Halloween, they take over failed businesses during the holidays for 1 to 2 months. Toys R Us is one of the latest ones that they're doing. When you actually look on their website, almost everything on their website says former gym, former Best Buy, former Toys R Us. So that's definitely Halloween. Last year we had COVID, so there was not a lot going on with regard to Halloween. There were still parties, but the parties were all reduced. A lot of the parties had 50% occupancy if they were fairly large or otherwise large public parties. It still went on in the neighborhoods. People put up slides and they did treat slides and pipes and stuff so that they could actually have candy sliding down at 8 to 10 feet away from people so that they could still give out candy to the neighbors. A lot of the events were held outdoors, and even some of the haunted houses, they closed all of their indoor activities and went outdoors, but there were still a few haunted houses that did indoor activities. What's it going to be like this year? I don't know. I am getting invites for haunted houses and for parties. I don't know if everybody's going to have to be vaxxed to get in, but Halloween is still happening. So I want to talk about Halloween and some of the things that you can do for Halloween, depending upon just how much level you're willing to put into it. Let's say that you're nothing but lazy and you want to do the least possible. You still want to participate, you want to be, but you're really lazy. Just get a t-shirt. All you got to do is get a t-shirt that says something Halloween on it. That is a great example of something that you could wear to a Halloween party if you have nothing else. If you want to be a little bit more creative, some of the things that you can do, you can look at either making your own or going out and buying Halloween costumes. I'm going to show you a couple from Fair is Fair. I've got beard and mustache, so some of these are a little old, but this one was one, Bam Bam and Pebbles. You will actually be able to find costumes like this in a store. You could just go buy them. So the next level is costumes, where pretty much you just buy, or if you've got the pieces, you can make them. You can go to a secondhand store like a Goodwill, etc. And I'm going to have some resources at the end that you can go to for all of these. Another one for that I did a long time ago was Captain Condom and his trusty pal, KY. This one was real fun and got a lot of attention, let me tell you. There's no question about that. The KY shirt was actually airbrushed by me. It was used as an airbrush example more than anything else. There's one I've actually worn on a meeting here, and believe it or not, even when we were live and in person, I wore it at Ozona Grill. And that's, of course, the Hooters Grill. You can easily find those parts on the web. Not hard to put together at all. You actually even get to wear nothing but just tennis shoes, so you don't have to put on high heels or anything. But just as another example of creative costumes, a lot of these were put together from some amount of store-bought pieces. Some of them are really just almost lingerie or other parts that were put together. I don't know why, but a lot of pictures at Halloween end up being pictures of women. There's just not that many pictures of men that get all together for Halloween. I don't know why, but there's this picture. I thought this one was good. A lot of the pictures that do have men, they tend to be a little grosser, maybe a little bit more gory, something along that nature. One of the things you'll notice about that is it has one of the things I'm going to talk about next. The next level, pumping it up beyond just wearing a costume, is to go out of your way to do something with paint. So one of the typical things to do would be something like face painting. Face painting would use either sticks or something along this order. Let me put it in front of my face. This is basically a cake makeup that you would use with, you just get a little bit wet with a paintbrush, paint it on. But if you do something like that, you can then give yourself face painting. Now, this is going to take you a lot more time than just changing into something. So obviously, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to allot some more time. So expect that. But it is something that you can do. And this was pretty easy. I went out and I bought the top with the skeleton on it, both the front and the back, painted the rest of my face. Didn't even paint it all the way down because I didn't want to get all the white and the black all over the garment. If I were doing this really for real and wanted it to look better, I'd have gone much deeper. But this particular night, didn't really care. I just wanted it to look reasonable. Beyond face painting, which you can either pay for it, do it yourself, depends upon how much work you want to do. And one of the standard ones is a sugar skull. If you've ever seen one of those, it tends to look like Los Dios de Muerte, if you've ever seen one of those. Face painting is easy to do. Most people can do it, depends upon the level of difficulty. If you want to amp it up one more, take the skeleton, do it for real as body paint. You can actually do the whole thing as body paint. That is going to take probably somebody else doing that for you, to be honest. If you want a body painter, I've got 2 or 3 that I can recommend, and they are amazing. Here's another example of that. This lady basically is wearing just a thong bottom. That's it. The rest of that is all paint. This is going to take several hours. If you're going to do one like this, expect to take some time. But again, I can hook you up with people who can do this for you if you're going to a party, even a party at home, if you want to do this. And if nothing else, it's fun to do it for somebody else. So if you want to body paint a friend, feel free. Let me talk a little bit about some of the resources that I want to point you to. I'm going to start with Dear Bloody Mary. Now, Dear Bloody Mary, I'm going to bring that website up real quick. Dear Bloody Mary, she's actually in Fort Worth. Her name is Bobby Weimer. And what you'll find is that she has kits. So when you go to her site, what you get is a kit. And each one of these kits between $30 and $40 will get you what you need to make yourself, either in this case, werewolf, clown, or whatever, 3 or 4 times. So that's a nice, easy alternative if you want to get something online, and we're starting early enough to do that. And that was not supposed to start there. It was supposed to start where I left off. If you need parts, you can go to Goodwill or Salvation Army, buy something very cheap in order to get started there. Costume World is another place that you can buy costumes real easily. Nor Costco, they buy and rent. So you can actually rent them for just an evening. Dallas Vintage is another place that you can get vintage period clothing. Electric Boutique, and Yandy. So whatever you do this year, I hope you decide to go have some fun on Halloween. You can either be the real you if that's the scariest part, or you can be someone else if that's even better. But regardless, I want for you to check out some of the resources and do something fun for Halloween this year. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. I'll need to ask for our timer's report. Did our speaker qualify, Rob?
Our prepared speaker qualified on time at 7 minutes and 57 seconds.
Thank you. All right. Good job. And before we go to table topics, I wanted to also, I spoke about my Lebanese grandmother, but I wanted to also talk about my mother's mother. And my mother's mother loved to make fudge, and she made the best, taught us how to make the best pimento cheese in the whole wide world. She also took a cake decorating class at one point in time. And she made all kinds of cakes. And then we got to taste her cakes when she was taking this cake decorating class. And I think that was the only time as a kid that I ever got tired of eating cake. I've never been fond of the frosting in a cake. And a lot of times if there's a lot of frosting and I don't like it, I'll take it off and I'll just eat the cake. But now we will change gears and go into our extemporaneous speaking portion of the meeting. And at this point in time, I'll introduce our table topics master, who's Mr. Rob Giles.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Table topics. It's here to help us to learn how to speak within a small time frame and to speak impromptu, extemporaneously, off the cuff. It can help us in social situations when we're presented with a topic that perhaps we didn't know about and we have to think on our feet. It could help us in interviews, and there are other situations where it can help us. Toastmasters is a good place for us to learn how to speak in an impromptu fashion. And as tabletop master, I'm going to be presenting some questions for you, and I will go through and ask various people to give answers as I go through. You will need to reach the 1 minute mark, and you'll see the green in my background when that happens. And you will need to speak no more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So when the red background comes up, you've got 30 seconds to finish up. One other thing that you will need to do, and this was mentioned earlier, is that you will need to use the word of the day during your table topics speech. And that word is chastise. So use it so that you won't get chastised by the grammarian later on. So 1 to 2 minutes, chastise, you'll be good to go. Pay attention to me if you can. Make sure that I am in your view as timer. Now, the theme of the meeting is food. What a great theme, something that we all can relate to. And there's a lot of variety, a lot of different directions that I could have taken this as far as the questions that I'm going to ask. I could have talked about specific foods. I could have talked about diet. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring all of that in. So I'm going to ask a variety of different questions throughout, but they're going to have some relation to food in some way. And I'm going to start off with the following, and it might be difficult for some people, but I'm going to say that for the most part, these are going to be pretty easy. Over the past year and a half at this point, we've done a lot of staying at home. And there were restaurants that were open, and some of us would go and maybe pick up food. I would like to know, at this point in time, are you eating out? And are you doing it a lot? If not, tell us why or why not. This question is going to go to Dagan Newland. Dagan?
All right. First, I want to say, before this pandemic hit, we'd probably go out at least probably once a week, if not twice. Well, at least once a week for dinner. Sometimes go out again, for breakfast when me and my other half, had the same day off or whatever. But since the pandemic started, we, also everybody stayed home more, so we didn't order, we didn't go out, so we didn't really order out either. We just stayed really mainly ate at home for the most part till maybe 5-6 months into the pandemic. We started maybe venturing out and did order some things. You started using Grubhub a couple times, and some of those services that deliver your food for you. But overall, that's pretty much what we did. We didn't really eat that much. Of course, me myself, I'm not really much of a foodie, but I would like to say that in my bearded community that I'm in, people get chastised when they get that question, does pineapple belong on pizza? And I say yes, it does. You may not agree, but I think it does, and it's a wonderful thing. Pizza is probably one of my favorite foods, and yeah, so that's it. Really, when the pandemic came available, that we didn't go out to eat as much. Back to you, Table Topic Master.
Thank you very much, Dagan. I agree with you. I think pizza is the food, right? So my next question is in the same realm somewhat. So when you're going out, you're going to go to someplace that you like, right? Whether it's someplace to a pizza place or something along those lines. Most of us have favorite places that we want to go if we're going to go. So I'm going to ask Justin, what's your favorite restaurant and why?
Thank you, Topic Master. So this was a very deep topic for me. I do like food a lot. I'm a food person. And I want to give you a bit more details on that. I have a bit of food allergies. I have several food allergies. Can't eat gluten. I can't eat dairy. Nuts are like a no-go for me as well. So is soy and corn. So I have a limited diet. I'm not allowed to eat certain foods. But there is one restaurant that does it for me. It has the food I enjoy the most, and it is Fogo de Chao. Now, some might chastise me for going to this somewhat upscale restaurant, but to me, it has the best meat selection you could ever ask for. The ribeyes are delicious. The sirloin is to die for. The fried bananas and fried plantains are out of the world. This is the best food place I like to go to currently. It's a Brazilian steakhouse. They have different cuts of meat. They have lamb, pork, chicken, ribeye, chicken wrapped in bacon. They have bacon like wrapped in cinnamon and with sugar on it. It's so good. It's so delicious. I highly recommend it. I recently got a job about a month ago, and me and my family went out, and it's all you can eat. So I didn't eat the entire day. I worked out that day. I was sure I had an empty stomach to get my fill at Fogo de Chão. And I will be sure to go back there again. Thank you, Topic Master.
Thank you very much, Justin. Bacon is another one of my, I guess, additions to food. I don't know that I could eat a whole plate full, but if you have food, you add bacon to it, I think it's just a better food at that point. So I want to ask the next question, somewhat to that effect. My favorites, pizza, love to add bacon. There's a few other things that I love. I want to know, what is your favorite food and why? This one goes to Mr. Tom Friese.
Thanks very much, Rob. This is an impossible question. Favorite food and why? That's like asking, what's your favorite movie or what's the best TV show ever? It's so highly dependent on how hungry I am, what I had yesterday, what I'm gonna have tomorrow. I will confess though that I am a foodie, not the kind of foodie that you see on TV that's into high-end foods and can distinguish, can taste a meal, taste a dish and tell what spices are in it, that kind of stuff. None of that stuff at all. I'm the kind of foodie for low-end foods, burgers, barbecue, pizza, Mexican food, Tex-Mex. That's the kind of foodie I am. All of them, they're all my favorites. In fact, I don't think I could even pick, you would chastise me if I were to throw out a single one of those that's my favorite. I don't think I could even pick a favorite restaurant among all of those, because within any of those categories, we have lots of restaurants that we love. 4 or 5 different pizza places, depending on what we're feeling like, or if we haven't had one in a while. The same with burgers and barbecue. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on the barbecue. So I think that's an unfair question. I'm going to raise an objection. I'm going to chastise you after the call for that one. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster, Mr. Question Master.
Thank you very much, Tom. Greatly appreciate that. I don't feel that you need to chastise me, but I like your answer as well. A lot of people think when they're a foodie that they get into all these high-end foods and all these different varieties, which are great because you can really find some good, interesting things out there that maybe you have not tested out or tried. And for myself, I know that I have tried some things, although I didn't branch out from basics, but how I prepared them was a big thing for me. And I started to learn how to prepare some of the things that I used to make in a more basic fashion, in a more complicated, and it had a subtle hint of this flavor or that spice or that herb. And definitely it tested my cooking skills, but it was great to be able to experience that. And I'm going to ask the next person, which is our Toastmaster for the evening. Do you have a favorite recipe, Karen Lee? And if so, tell us what and why.
Do I have a favorite recipe? That's a good question. I have a lot of favorite recipes. What is my favorite recipe? I would have to say that one of my favorite recipes is making it's hard to pick a favorite recipe. You know that? It's a very good question. And I'm thinking that one of my favorite recipes is a cookie recipe that we made as children. They were called Crispy's cookies. So no one's going to ever chastise me about eating cookies because cookies are good. this recipe had both Rice Krispies and oatmeal and sugar and butter, and they were some of our most favorite cookies when we were growing up. And we made these cookies for Christmas, usually. And I remember being in the kitchen with my mom and my sister and making these cookies for Christmas. So, Mr. Table Topics Master, my favorite recipe is what for Krispies cookies. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Desserts, yes. I know that there are some good dessert recipes out there. And although I don't have any specifically, I follow pretty much my mom's recipes for some desserts. And I stick to those because those were the things that I grew up on and I loved dearly. And so I'm trying to recreate those things. So those are the recipes that I do for desserts. But desserts are something that you can always think about it. Some people aren't dessert people though. I want to ask at this point, do any of our guests want to participate in table topics? Anybody, just raise your hand if you're interested. Tracy, excellent. Okay, all right. Oh, and Adelita too. I can do two. And okay, all three. So let's see if we can get some three quick ones in here. All right, so we're going to start off with Tracy. So if Adelita and Nikula, if you could mute yourselves just to be sure that you're muted while Tracy goes. And Tracy, what I'm going to ask you is this. Dessert's one thing, but meals are another thing. And some people don't eat 3 meals a day. What I want to know is, do you eat 3 meals a day or not? And is there a reason for it? Go ahead, let us know.
Thank you, Rob. Sometimes I eat 3 meals a day and sometimes I do not. When I'm not working, I typically will not eat 3 meals a day for some strange reason. I think it's because I wake up much later and then I just make a decision that, well, it's so late now, it's too late for breakfast, so I'll just wait until lunch to eat. So then I'm having only 2 meals a day. However, recently I have taken a nutrition class and I have discovered that that is the worst thing that you could ever do. Because when you have a breakfast, it balances out your glucose level for the rest of the day, which explained why I had a sudden spike in my glucose because I was only eating 2 meals a day versus my normal 3 meals a day. I also learned that high fructose corn syrup can be just as damaging to your liver as alcohol, which I thought was very, very interesting. I also learned that high fructose corn syrup is basically in everything that's liquid, soda, juices. It's even in some pre-prepared foods. I was actually shocked to kind of find out that Jiffy cornbread mix has lard in it. Not that I'm a big Jiffy cornbread fan, but I was just really shocked to find out that that particular cornbread mix had lard in it, and it's very popular. Just to think some people put extra butter in it. So having 3 meals a day is very, very important. My father, who grew up in a very rural part of Texas, had very strict rules about eating. They couldn't even go into the kitchen without permission. So growing up as a child, he let us eat whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. And he didn't really care what it was, what we ate. We hardly ever were chastised for the things that we ate. So from that, I learned that you really have to, as children growing up, you kind of really have to monitor them. You can't let them have that type of freedom with their eating. They develop all type of bad eating habits. So yes, I do eat 3 meals a day, and it's very important to do that. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you very much, Tracy. The next question is going to revolve around what happens between meals. A lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us will have some sort of snack at some point. Sometimes you're going through the day, you're at work, and you just need that extra lift. And maybe you don't have a 5-hour energy, although maybe you do. but a lot of us will have something extra that will help us to keep going, whether it's going to motivate us, whether it's going to give us energy as far as sugar is concerned. I want to ask Adelita, what snacks do you normally have when you do have snacks? Or if you don't, why not?
Just a quick note, Adelita, make sure that your timer is visible, which is wrong.
And you're on mute too.
Can you unmute her, Mark?
The answer is I cannot unmute her. She can only unmute herself. I can ask her to unmute, but I can't force it.
Adelita, can you hear us?
Yeah, Adelita, if you can, please unmute yourself.
She says she can hear us. We can't hear you.
Yeah, we're not hearing you.
It says she's connected to the audio, so you're having some technical difficulties. Are you having technical difficulties? Not, if you are.
Hello? Can you
Ah,
hear
there
me?
you are. Yes, you're back.
Okay. All right. It's this thing. Okay. As for the snacks, I enjoy snacks. That's not exactly what I do all day, but I do have snacks. I eat my breakfast and then I have a snack in between. Then I eat lunch, yet I snack again. And the type of snacks that I do have and I do eat are chips. Or sometimes I'll take out like, if I have some fruit in the refrigerator, if I want something with sweet, but also spicy. And the thing that I like to add to my fruit is the tahini. It's Mexican seasoning. I like to add a little bit of spice on my fruits. That's one of my favorite snacks. As for the chips, my favorite is Doritos Flamas. I like spicy chips. I think everything in my life is spicy. But also, as for yesterday, I kind of every now and then just to, kill the moment with the snacks. I usually like to drink a beer as well because beer is really good when you eat something spicy. So I had to chastise my son yesterday because he forgot to bring me a 6-pack of beer yesterday for our tacos dinner that we had last night. And thank you, Topic Master.
Thank you very much, Adelita. We appreciate that. And we're going to go to Nikula again, or not again, but he's the last one. I want to make sure it's fair to all of our guests here, give them all a chance to chime in. So my question to you is that these days, I feel that we have a lot of people who have allergies and a variety regarding food. And I wonder back, because I think back to when I was a kid and nobody had allergies, or at least we didn't know it. So what do you think about allergies? Do you have any regarding food? And if so, tell us about it. Maybe if you're no allergies, then tell me what you think about everybody having allergies.
Absolutely. Table topic master Rob Gillis. So this is the conversation that I had with my friend when I was doing my master's, probably a year ago. So this is a big question to me. When I've been to the nearest school at my place, I see a lot of people are allergic to peanuts. I'm like, what? Like allergic to peanuts? Like there is a caution, like a lot of kids are allergic to peanuts. So like that's really a big question mark to me, because I never seen any person who is allergic to peanuts. I seen the people allergic to pumpkin, this kind of stuff. So me and my friend are having, so we've been talking about it. So the conclusion that we got was this is because the kids are not exposed to have those food when they are very little. So when they grow up, they lost that immunity. So this is what my perspective. And when it's coming to me, I don't have much. If I eat a lot of spicy, like very lot, then I might have a bit of digestion issue. Apart from that, I don't really have an allergy. This is something about my perspective on this allergies. And if I do eat like beef, so then I will be chastised by my parent. That's pretty much that I have. And back to you, table topic.
Thank you very much, Nakula. So that is going to finish it for our table topic contestants. I'm going to ask for a couple of reports here. First, from our timer, which is myself. Did everybody qualify on time, Mr. Topic Master? And the answer is yes. Everybody qualified on time, I'm happy to say. The next qualification is for our grammarian, and that's in regard to the word of the day. So I'm going to ask our grammarian, did our contestants all use the word of the day? And if they didn't, let me know.
They did. So should I let you know anyway they did?
Either way.
They all use the word of the day.
Woo! Excellent. Okay, so wonderful. At this point, you can vote for them by shooting a private chat to our vote counter, which is Dagan Newland, and do that in a private chat to him. And contestants, you are welcome to vote as well. And guests, you are welcome to vote as well. I'm going to go through the list of the people. First was Dagan Newland. He talked about eating out. Second was Justin Faust. He talked about his favorite restaurant. Tom Terici talked about his favorite food. Karen Lee talked about her favorite recipe. And then we went into our guests. And Tracy, she talked about whether she has 3 meals a day or not. And Adelita talked about snacks and what snacks she has when she's in between meals. And then finally, Nakula told us a little bit about what he thinks about allergies and why the cause might be there. So go ahead and vote. And you can also send any comments to any of the topic speakers as far as their topics were concerned, if you want to do so. At this point, I want to pass the meeting along to our general evaluator for the evening, who will be conducting the general evaluation session, unless Madam Toastmaster.
Just one quick redirect. The agenda, of course, is wrong. Make sure that those votes are cast with Dagan Newland. There was a last minute agenda change. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, Mark. So at this point, I will introduce our general evaluator for the evening. Please help me welcome Mr. John Vessels.
Hey, it's me again. So tonight I'm going to be the general evaluator of the meeting, and the general evaluator's job is to do just that. And that's evaluate the meeting. Also, I will be introducing their duty holders that we met at the beginning of the meeting, and they'll tell us their report about their roles, what they observed or heard. And also to introduce the evaluator for our prepared speech this evening, which is Lee King, who evaluated Mr. Mark Schroeder. So Lee, will you please do your evaluation, sir?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially Mark. It's always nice to evaluate your speeches. Tonight, I will point out a few things I thought you did well, give a couple of areas that you might want to consider to improve upon between now and your next speech, and then finally, one thing that I thought you did really well. First and foremost, your speech tonight was very applicable to everybody in the audience. I think that everybody could relate to Halloween. Everybody dressed up at least once in their life. And I like the fact that you challenged us to go ahead and try to participate in Halloween a little bit more this year compared to last year. Another thing that I really enjoyed about your speech were your PowerPoint slides. It definitely gave a little more humor, a little more personality to your speech. And your slides were not overly cluttered, pretty much just showed one picture and you in a Halloween costume, which really brought the speech to life. And then finally, I like the history that you provided about how some old stores become costume stores over the holidays. And what that is called. I thought that was also very insightful. A couple of things that I would suggest to consider working on between now and your next speech. One would be to just have your computer ready a little bit sooner, and so that there's a little less technical difficulty with bringing us into your speech. The other thing that I feel like you could do to really challenge yourself, and one of the purposes of evaluation really is to point out an area in which the speaker can challenge him or herself, is to incorporate more facial gestures and a little more eye contact with your speech. You're in the slideshow view mode the whole time, but I know that with your experience with computers, there might be a way that you could divide the screen so we could still see your face, or perhaps toggle between PowerPoint and your face from time to time. Might enhance your speech just a little bit more. But the one thing that I really enjoyed about your speech was the fact that you gave us that challenge to really try to go out, get creative, and participate in Halloween. Very well done speech. Back to you, Mr. Journal Evaluator.
Thank you, Lee. Now call for a timer's report. Rob, did Lee qualify on time?
Mr. General Evaluator, we qualified at 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
Thank you, sir. So now we don't need to vote for our evaluator since it's on the one this evening, but if you have any comments that you'd like to share about Lee's evaluation, please send them by private chat to Dagan. All right, so I'm going to evaluate some of the meeting and then we'll introduce our duty holders in a little bit. That way they can evaluate me if I come across and say something that is incorrect, or if I do anything as far as posture is bad. So first off, it's like, well, we did start a bit late tonight, but not super late, but still, we started late. One of the things I did, so this evening, if we're gonna do an invocation and pledge and introduce guests, we should do that before we start the theme of the meeting and go into our first, you started kind of your first section of what the theme of the meeting about food. And then we introduce the guests, and we should have flipped that around. And that's just traditional, but it kind of breaks up your theme if we get off, do something like that to me. Secondly of all, I thought that, well, one time Rob called Karen Madam Contest Master, and I don't know why. I mean, that was at the very beginning, but I was thinking, we're not having a contest, are we? So just a little thing. I mean, good things tonight. I thought all the meeting flowed really, really well. Otherwise, just come a couple of hiccups there. Yeah, Mark, it's like if you could have had your slide just a little more prepped up so we don't have so much build up to doing it, that would have been great. Otherwise, I thought all the meeting ran real well. We got every single one of our guests to do table topics and had a nice big table topic session tonight, considering we only had one speaker this evening. So we had that extra time that we could use in there easily and fill in everybody. And thank you all the guests for joining in with table topics. Sounds like they're all a little bit of experienced at this, so we'll find out at the end of the meeting. Now I'd like to go ahead and move on to our duty holders, and let's start with Tom, who is our awe counter. And Tom, will you take it away?
Thank you, John. We need we need another duty holder for next time, which is mute policeman or something. All right, sorry about that. Mark, I'll start with you. On your speech, I thought it was outstanding. I was listening really closely for uhs and ums and pauses. And I didn't pick up any. It's possible I missed some because the speech was so entertaining. It was really hard to focus on qualitative things and grading it, but I didn't hear any. Let me think. Karen, the only thing that I caught from you, I did not catch any ums or ahs or any of those traditional pause or stalling words. I did pick up on during the table topics at the beginning, there were some long pauses as you were it seemed like you were fishing for ideas, but I don't have to tell you that. I think you were self-aware. You probably picked up on that. Going down the list, Rob, I did not hear any ums or ahs or the traditional stall words. Your audio was glitchy, and so it was hard to distinguish that from pauses, but I don't think I've heard you speak enough. I don't think that there were even any of those. I was listening really closely. There was one so in there, and it seemed more like it was an appropriate one, like it was an appropriate rejoinder in a sentence and not a stalling. So, but that's all that I picked up on you. Let me see. Dagan, I'm looking at my notes here. I think these are all regarding your the speech that you had during table topics. The one that I picked up for you was, I didn't hear any ums or ahs or any of those, but I counted 4 uses of for breakfast, or Grubhub. I jotted down a couple others. So I would say that one was I wouldn't even call it a downfall in this case. Moving on, let's see, Justin. You did an outstanding job. I listened very closely, and I caught one and it was very, very near the end. It was almost as if you were petering out, running out of energy, running out of juice at the end. But it was very, very slight and brief. Tracy, first of all, thanks as a guest. I was really impressed that all of our guests jumped up and participated. Tracy, you did an outstanding job. I heard one use of the word I think it was around when you were talking about Jiffy cornbread and having it having lard in it. But otherwise it was outstanding. I didn't hear any use of ahs or any of the other traditional stalling that you've probably heard me use quite a few times here. Adelita, I counted, I think, 4 uses of the word one of them I think probably shouldn't have counted. I think you led with an after the technical difficulty, which is totally understandable. Otherwise, though, I think I picked up a couple others. There was a reference when you were talking about having your son get you a beer. I thought that was very funny. I did catch an in there, but I think I counted 4 ums in there. Nikula, and by the way, would you mind coming off mute and telling us how to pronounce your name?
Well, Nukula is my last name.
Oh.
And Avinash is my first name.
Avinash?
Yeah, you can say Avi. I don't chastise with you.
Avi.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. Let me see. So you did very well as well, and thanks thanks also for participating in the table topics. The one word that I picked up more than others was like. I didn't hear a lot. I think there was one so and a couple us, but I did hear you use the word like several times. Otherwise, though, an outstanding job. Moving on, let's see. Lee, during your eval, I thought you did an outstanding job. I heard no pardon me, any of those things. I heard a couple pauses. They were not so long that you would say they were awkward in any way, or like you were fishing for a word. They were just not as fluid as you normally are. And I realize that with this feedback, I'm completely nitpicking. And the only reason I'm doing so is because you're a very, very polished speaker. And I get the sense that you would like the feedback and the opportunity to hear. But this was only a couple times. And overall, I thought it was outstanding. And John, last of all, during the evaluation, I caught only one and I caught a single when you were talking about the table topics. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks very much. And back to you, John.
All right, thanks, Tom. Our next duty holder this evening is going to be Justin, and he was our posture bell. So, Justin, would you provide us with your report, sir?
Yes, thank you, John. So for posture, I'm going to go in order as well. Karen, I liked your posture when introducing the theme. You had when I think your mom or grandma was grinding the meat. That was pretty good. Mark Schroeder, you had really good posture throughout your speech. It wasn't a lot because you had the slide as well. But I think you used your hands when you talked about the slide, going down the slide. That was pretty interesting. I'm not sure if this is posture or not, but you definitely used your photos pretty well. Like you in a Hooters girl costume, you as a condom. The slides were pretty funny, so I really appreciated that. So let's go on to table topics. Dagan, I didn't really see any gestures throughout your speech. Nothing distracting though. Tom, when you first started speaking, you clapped, like you went like this. That might be a bit of a distraction, but besides that, you're very animated throughout your speech, so that was pretty good. Karen, I didn't really see any gestures too much throughout your speech, but nothing distracting. Oh yeah, also, I'm sorry, but Tom, I did notice when you were speaking, you were going in and out. You were like going in and out while you were talking. So you're pretty animated, but you might want to cut that back a bit. Okay, so Karen. Tracy, you also would emphasize your words. You would go in and out a bit more, but it wasn't as distracting. It was just more used to emphasize what you were saying. So that was good. Catalina, it wasn't, I didn't really see very many gestures, but nothing distracting. And then Avi, you would use your hands a bit throughout your speech, but nothing distracting. So that's pretty much all for me. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Justin. And now I'm the grammarian, so I'm going to give you a grammarian's report. And let's start with Karen. And I can't even say all the words, but all the recipes that she talked about for her grandmother. Dolmas, I remember, and then some of the other ones I've never heard of before. So I was kind of lost on what those Armenian food names were, but it was interesting. And we heard some words, and who knows, we'll go to a restaurant one time that serves Armenian food, and we'll say, I remember Karen telling me about that. That's this. That's great. So a lot of new food words. Okay, foodies. You know what? To me, foodies is just kind of rude because it's like A foodie basically is a person who really enjoys food and then has to criticize the effect of the food or what the food was good enough or analyze it or something. Just eat and enjoy. I mean, if something's really nasty, you send it back. But otherwise, just eat and be happy. We're all foodies in the sense that surely we're getting some kind of enjoyment out of having a meal. Justin, when you were giving your table topics, you talk about being, gluten intolerant and stuff, but you went on and described some of the food at the Brazilian steakhouse as, to die for and out of this world. And those are always just fun little phrases we hear now and then and are, very addictive to some really good foods. Okay, other than that, those were my big words and the big things. I didn't hear any really bad uses in the English language or, anybody just tearing anything up on it. So all in all, a very good grammarian's piece. Now back to me now I'm the GE. So all in all, I thought the meeting went very well. I think we did a really good job tonight. And everybody participated. I mean, just everybody participated in some role this evening. So nobody got left out, not even the guests. So now I'd like to call for a vote of the best of the big three. Now the big three are our Toastmaster, Karen Lee, our Table Topics Master, which is Rob Giles, or myself as General Evaluator. Are you saluting or do you want to say something, Rob? Okay. So, all right. So now if you would vote for who you thought did the best job of the big three and send that by private chat to Mr. Dagan Newland. And if there's nothing else, Karen, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our president for this term, Lee King, to have our business meeting.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to just start with introducing our guests. Starting with Tracy, will you please share with us what you thought about tonight's meeting?
Well, I enjoyed the meeting. I thought it was interesting. I specifically liked the topic. I've been on Toastmaster vacation. I didn't renew in April. So I'm just kind of resting up. But I thought the meeting was fun. It was kind of, you can tell I haven't been here in a while. Kind of had a hard time following everything. But I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bobby, will you please share your thoughts on tonight's meeting?
I really loved the meeting, how well it was organized, and the detail that was given by Justin and John, like those are very precise, so that the people who really want to get better out of it will definitely learn and improvise on those points. And so the bottom line, I really love the meeting. So when it coming to me, what I'm looking in Toastmaster is want to engage people for a longer time. So let's say I can keep engaged the audience for 2 to 3 minutes. No, that's not enough. I want to keep them 10 minutes, maybe more than that. That is something I'm looking in Toastmasters. And back to you.
Thank you. And Adelita, please share your thoughts on tonight's meeting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I actually enjoyed that. I participated in the table topics. I know I had some technical difficulties there. And then I lost the train of thought. I actually had my speech ready, but it didn't, I got distracted. So there goes the again. I enjoyed it, and I do plan on coming back and joining the club.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Couple of brief announcements. First, the division contest will be on Thursday, October the 21st. So please just earmark that date. I do believe we have at least one member that will be competing in the division contest. So we will most likely not be doing this meeting on the 21st, rather getting more people to, all of us, to support our member in the contest. So please mark that date. The other announcement that I have is that dues are due for existing members. It is $75. For new members, you will pay well, actually, if you join by next week, you would just pay the 75, would submit your payment on October the 1st. You'd pay the 75 plus the $20 one-time new member fee. Except for our returning member, you would just pay the 75. You only have to pay that $20 fee the one time. So at this point, we are still, the county is red. As far as the COVID numbers, it looks like it's going to be that way for a little while. And usually in November, we move out of ozone anyway. So our thought is that it will be January before we are actually able to meet back at Ozona. Although if the COVID numbers go down, we would consider trying to meet again in person, although it'd probably be at an alternate location. With that, Megan, do you have our results for tonight's meeting?
Yes, I sure do. So let's go over the knowns. So we have the best speaker would be Mark Schroeder, and best evaluator is going to be Lee King. So the two unknowns people really want to know is the best table topic speaker tonight is going to be Tom. And the best of the big three is going to be Rob.
Right.
Back to you, Lee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have anything else at this time?
Yes, I actually have one thing I would like to show. My job tonight was to do presentation software. And I think I want to show you what I had in front of me because I've never done it this way before. I was using a new software to me. I'm fortunate that I have two monitors. And this is actually using completely free software that's normally part of Linux called Impress. It is a replacement for PowerPoint. But what is interesting is, so I've got two monitors. When I started stuff, I started it on the left-hand monitor, and I get the full screen on the right-hand monitor, which is the one I was sharing. I even did a test beforehand to make sure I got the right monitor shared. But what's really interesting here is I get, on the left-hand side, as you can see, I get the smaller version of what I'm looking at on the right-hand side. I get the next slide, so I know what's coming up, and that's a real feature. And look at this. I not only have a set of controls down here, I've even got a timer. So I know where I am in my speech. Anytime I want to look down here, just automatically recorded for me. If I happen to be needing to be through at 10:30 or whatever, I've got a clock and I've got a timer. And again, all of this was free software. I developed it in this. It is very much like a PowerPoint. It looks like a PowerPoint, acts like a PowerPoint, but with two monitors, it looks like almost more like an aircraft cockpit. And I felt pretty good doing this. There are a couple of gotchas for anybody that wants to do this. The one thing you will notice, where's Zoom? The answer is Zoom's gone. It has taken up the entire screen. I don't even have my taskbar down at the bottom. So if you bring this up, you don't have a way to bring up Zoom, and I could not find a way of going and grabbing Zoom. So I had to bring up Zoom, share the right-hand console first, or the right-hand monitor first, and then start this. That was step one. Step two, if you remember, partway through, I wanted to show you the Dear Bloody Mary site. In order to do that, I tried before the meeting yanking Dear Bloody Mary over there onto the second monitor. It goes up, if it goes over there at all, it goes behind this, so you don't see it. I had to stop the presentation in order for the website to show up. once I stopped the presentation, take a guess what that did to my timer. It started my timer over again. So you have to watch where your timer is and figure out cumulative where you are. I was really afraid I was going to run over time. I thought I was a lot closer to 8:30 than I was. But still, if you're doing a presentation with PowerPoint or PowerPoint equivalent and slides, I thought this was pretty impressive. And a view that I had never had with clocks and everything, clocks and timers and the ability to see the next slide real easily. And I thought it really made my job a lot easier tonight. That's all. Back to you, Lee.
All right. Thank you for joining. Everybody have a good night.
All right, thank you, everyone. We will stop the recording in 3, 2,